Good evening and welcome to another cracking edition of Ozsports FM on a Wednesday evening here in the City of Churches of Adelaide. An action-packed week of sport, and once again we're going to bring you not all the results, some of the results and our views and opinions and rumours and whatnot. And joining me once again is Henry. Henry, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here, Vlad.
Yes, and Dazza behind the desk there, trying to work out what's going on, and hopefully our voices will be projected into the podcast world and all the millions of listeners out there. So now don't forget, if you want to call through, please do, 0881218367. If you want to send us a tweet, then my tag is at that Vlad guy, and Ozsports FM is the hashtag. Henry?
My Twitter name is HCDC93.
That's right. HCDC.
That's it, yeah. Something with H. H.
That's right. We've got a lot of AFL news to go through, and it's probably going to be a dominant part of the show. But we'll start off with, obviously, let's go to the Netball World Cup that was played in Sydney with Henry. The Australian Diamonds defeated New Zealand 58-55.
Yeah, they avenged their group game loss. Obviously, they would have been a little bit disappointed by that, but got over the line in the final. They were up by 9 goals in the first quarter, I believe. So sort of almost locked in the win
early,
very very early on in the match. So the 3-goal margin probably wasn't very reflective of the overall tone of the match, really. So,
no, it was a +9, and then at halftime +8, +6, and then in the end +3.
Yeah.
So
six-goal lead at 3/4 time in netball was a fairly handy margin, I would say.
Bit of a comeback there.
Yeah, they did come back, but I think Australia were fairly comfortable throughout the match, really. And I think probably the main story of the Netball World Cup was a good win by the girls, but the crowds, Sydney had record crowds over there. I think they were selling out. I can't remember the name of the
All Phones Arena.
All Phones Arena, yeah. It holds about 15 to 20,000 people.
Yep,
so
that's right.
One of the biggest indoor arenas in Australia, probably close to next to Rod Laver Arena. So sellout crowds. The public are loving it,
which is good. I mean, netball is a massive sport in this country.
Exactly, and I think the girls definitely deserve to be paid a lot more than what they do. Clearly the interest is there, so hopefully, networks can get behind. Whenever we just saw in the AFL, obviously they sold their rights for $2.5 billion. I don't think the netballers are going to get quite close to that.
No, we're going to discuss that more later.
But I think we've got good crowds, good ratings for the netball, and potentially this could be sort of the breakthrough that they need to maybe become sort of more professional athletes.
100%. I agree with you. I don't watch the netball. Maybe I should, because there's a lot of lovely ladies out there in the netball world. But I agree. There should be more financial gain from netball, and I think it should become a lot more professional than it is, where players can hopefully get to a point where they can become professional and just live off, or at least partly, majority live off the
exactly.
I
think I read an article that said that the players in the Australian team probably live on an average of $30,000 to $50,000 from their netball contract, and that includes their club contract and their Australia contract and sponsorship. So they're really on less than average Australian wage. So
it's a part-time thing in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think all the players probably have full-time jobs on the side.
Yeah,
so it would make it very, very hard to combine your training and your professional sport with full-time job as well. So it's something that hopefully can be changed in the future, and clearly netball's probably at its highest peak in the history of the game, really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the result gave Australia the first, consecutive. It says here the result gave Australia Commonwealth Games and World Cup victories in consecutive years for the first time since 98-99. So, I think netball has always been there. I think just because of that.
I think participation in netball has always been very high, but
very high.
Ratings on TV and attendances at matches hasn't been at the same level, but that's started to catch up now, and I don't think any sport wouldn't sneeze at sellout crowds, upwards of 20,000 people. So in the NRL, they barely struggle to get 10,000 people at some point. So,
and NRL is, I don't follow the NRL that much, to be honest, and obviously it's a lesser sport, I believe.
Yeah.
But I know Daz is, shrugging. He's very angry about that comment. Get over it.
I mean, all players are generally paid based on what the game generates, and
yes,
it looks like with the crowds and the ratings, at their highest point, hopefully the revenue can pick up and the players can be fairly compensated as well. So.
Yeah, 100%. So look, well done to the Diamonds and gaining that World Cup victory, and look onwards and upwards for the sport of netball in this country. And fingers crossed the next time a World Cup comes around. I don't know how often it is. I'm assuming it's every few years. That it'll be professional. So and I think one of the Adelaide girls, I forgot her name now, is actually going to get married to Joe Ingles, another Adelaide boy, plays in the NBA next month or in October, next few months. So. I think it's going to be interesting. She's obviously back home. I do apologise to our listeners because I did forget her name, but I saw her quickly on the news last night. So, and good old Joe Ingles, SA boy, down from the Southern Titans. So, now the Boomers are also playing. We're just going to touch upon that. I know they beat the Tall Blacks, as they like to call them.
Interesting name there, Tall Blacks.
Yeah, the Tall Blacks. So, that's obviously happening in Melbourne, the Oceania kind of qualifications.
Yeah, it makes it a bit boring, really, for the qualifications for the Olympics. They only really have to play one team to qualify.
Yes. But look, it's something that it's great to see that everyone's out playing. Like Boga, Dellavedova,
and Paddy Mills played as well.
Paddy Mills, Anderson, Bairstow. Obviously, Dante is out injured, unfortunately.
So it was a fairly strong Aussie squad, really, wasn't it?
Well, look, I think the sport needs it. It's really in dire straits, to be honest, and I think they need the big names to come out and play and gain that. And that was played at Rod Laver.
Yeah, another game that sold out. So, Basketball Australia would have been happy with that.
Look,
100%. They've relaunched the NBL with a different logo, and I think they're going with a slightly different brand as well. So, clearly that sport's been very much on the downward spiral since the mid-90s.
Yes.
And soccer's sort of taken over as that, I guess, third or fourth sport in the country. Yeah. So, the interest in basketball is still as high as it's ever been. The number of people that watch the NBA.
I'm an NBA fanatic.
Tweet about it and, post on Facebook about the NBA. So the interest in the sport is there, but unfortunately the National League here is certainly, fallen down the wayside, I guess.
Look, I agree.
Interest, money, talent
development. Bad
management.
Management.
So, but, maybe with the success of Dellavedova in this year's NBA finals and Paddy Mills last year, maybe the interest in basketball can pick up a bit more. And
fingers crossed. I mean, they need
with the relaunch of the NBL.
That's right.
I think they need to scrap the old sort of just
start fresh.
Start
like
fresh.
The A-League in the soccer.
Yeah.
And they blew it up. They got, I guess, all the ethnic kind of names out and clubbed and started fresh with the neutral, like the CBFC, Adelaide United, Melbourne Victories, etc. So that's what that's not the case in the NBL, but I think they need to blow it up. Andrew Gay said it many months back, or even last year, said that's what they need to do. Close it, shut it down for a year, start fresh.
National League's only got 8 teams as well, so but again, future's always, you got to be optimistic about the future, I think, sometimes, and as I said, maybe they can turn things around, but I guess they're pinning their hopes on the new brand, I suppose. So
look, and I guess it comes down to getting it, maybe the TV deal, etc., getting a bit of exposure. I mean, I think we're supposed to go, and it's impossible to get a ticket sometimes.
Exactly. I think the TV deal has been one of the problems because I think the last broadcast rights they had almost all their matches on their subscription service online. But any matches on TV were delayed by upwards of 3 or 4 hours, and by the time the game was on TV, you already knew the result. So I wasn't really, when it used to be live on Fox Sports, and you watch, quite a few games and you recognise the players. But for me, I'm more than happy to watch basketball. But if you don't know any of the players on your team purely because it's not in the media, it's hard to get emotionally attached.
Oh yeah, 100%.
With all the games that are on at the time, and 36ers made the grand final a year ago, and they only really started to get interest once they made the grand final. Right?
Well, everyone loves a winning team, don't they, Henry?
Yeah.
So, and the crowds were great at the games during the playoffs, which is great. I mean, I wasn't able to attend, but I attended the previous year, and it was great. It was like sold out, pretty much. It was packed. So I guess this season was a little bit of a sort of disappointment in a way. But look,
they made a massive run to the finals, didn't they? I think they won like 9 games.
Yeah, I know. So it was, there's a lot of basketball lovers out there in Australia, and NBA is obviously going to be strong around the world. But let's hope, fingers crossed, that the NBL can get their act together and better management and branding. And look, I'd love to see to the point where the Sixers games is the hottest ticket in town. Because let me tell you, I remember the time that it was, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
For the
36ers in the 90s and the early 2000s were huge, weren't they?
Fantastic. Good old Robert Rose and Leon Trimmingham and fantastic. All these names. So now I understand the Opals have defeated New Zealand. Dazza nodding his head. He brought that. Now I don't know the results of that, but they've qualified, I believe, for the Olympics as well.
The men and women both qualified.
Men and women.
Yeah.
So
the Opals are very, very strong. They're one of the probably top 3 or 4 teams in the world in basketball. So.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And look, the WNBA helps that as
Absolutely,
well. Yeah. That is a fantastic league. So and good on obviously the NBA putting that in place. And but look, yeah, well done to obviously the basketball teams. Onwards and upwards. And fingers crossed. I love the sport to death. So hopefully in the near future it's going to be. Well, it's not going to be at the top, but let's hope it's pushing the other.
Make a bit of a rebound. Yeah, that's it.
Now let's go to tennis, because there's been a lot of interesting things happening in the tennis world, Henry, and everyone would know, the listeners would know there, and we'd love to get your thoughts. So give us a call if you're listening out there, of course. 0881218367. Kyrgios, Henry, you play tennis.
I do play tennis, yes.
And
he likes to be in the headlines, doesn't he?
Yes. So Kyrgios, now, for the listeners out there, well, if you've been hiding under a rock, Kyrgios pretty much during a match with Stan Wawrinka pretty much threw out the line that, well, this is obviously not verbatim, but he pretty much said to Stan, hey, well, guess what? Kokonakis slept with your missus.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. I think...
as a tennis man...
Yeah. I think it was... I'm more than happy with sledging. I'm more than happy with witty sledges, and especially to ones that sort of only really impacted the player on court. But I thought the fact that he brought in 2 other players involved who weren't able to defend themselves, and now that Kokonakis and her has been sort of splashed all over the front page of every newspaper around the world. So no, I thought that was probably where it
crossed the line.
Crossed the line, I would say, yeah. So
have you ever sledged in your tennis matches?
No, I would say no. I guess the only thing I've ever done is sort of maybe try to show that I've, if I'm sort of on top and someone's starting to not mentally break down, but starting to fall away, show that you're still fit and firing, and push to the chair, and like at the end of a game, like to show that you're still, you're not falling away whatsoever. So I guess there's some sort of mental edge sometimes, but I don't think I've ever actually slag someone off during a match, or even before or after a match.
Have you ever wanted to, though?
No, probably not. No, I mean, there's some players that I don't like as much as others, but I've never really thought, I'll verbally attack them. So, but Kyrgios has been a loose cannon for quite a while now.
Well, he has, and he's only been fined about just over $13,500. So, which is pretty, I guess, it's a decent fine.
It's a decent fine, but he won. I think his prize money for that tournament was $40,000. So
yeah,
it's only really a 25% discount on his prize money for that tournament.
Yeah, so. and Federer's obviously come out and said it was he definitely crossed the line by a long shot, and he hopes that the tennis world, or the hierarchy really go hard on Kyrgios.
I think we're saying that Kyrgios doesn't really care what other people think of him, but at the same time, I think this incident has probably shown that maybe he's got plenty of years ahead of him. He's only in his low 20s. So,
20, I think he is. If that. So.
And in the following match after he faced Ibsen, and looked like he was a bit mentally shot and tired, and so this might be the obviously, well, it was pretty crude, and
he did apologise.
And he did apologise after probably he realised that it was a massive
mistake.
PR disaster for him.
Yeah, that's right. You'd hate to be his PR manager.
But, you never know. This could be the thing that turns him around from being sort of, swearing at umpires and
it's like the new McEnroe in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So, he does it in a really interesting way, though. He doesn't do it like he doesn't. He's not violent in his swearing or anything, but he sort of does like to almost deliberately be antagonistic.
It's sort of like taking the attention away from Bernard Tomic as well now. Bernard's probably thinking, you're great. Kyrgios is in the news. I'm not. You know, both
another controversial figure.
Yes.
So I think when you're complaining about funding when you're, got millions of dollars in the bank, it's probably you start to lose the credibility. You start to lose the support from the public, don't you?
That's right. And Kokonakis actually copped a bit of a spray or a bit of an altercation with one of the, I think, American players. I didn't read too much about it.
Ryan Harrison.
Yeah, so
from America.
What happened there?
It was a little bit weird. I think there's a few arguments over some line calls and whatnot, but then I guess because Harrison was agitated in the match, he started to, have a go at Kokonakis over the previous sledge/incident. So, and then the umpire had to separate them at the end of the match, and so that would have rattled him a little bit, I would think.
It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? Another player
very strange,
wanting to come into it like Harrison. I mean,
why
would you even do that?
I think they played doubles together before as well, so, at least, no animosity between each other beforehand. So, very strange, but, it's, again, hopefully this is sort of the turning point for Kyrgios, and while we don't want to lose, we don't want him to lose his personality.
No, of course
but,
not.
If he starts to act like this, he'll lose all of the respect of the locker room, and could put himself at the risk of losing his Davis Cup spot. And
100%. He needs to grow up. Simple as that. He's a young fella, so much potential. He can be a fantastic player. Onwards and upwards by just their mental wisdom. And then I guess what happens with his family, his brother and his parents and what their upbringing, not their upbringing, but, just the current support system he's got in place. Does he actually have someone to say, hey, mate, what are you doing?
It's a very tricky situation because clearly his behaviour is erratic and antagonistic. But at the same time, this has generated headlines that wouldn't most non-tennis watchers only watch the Grand Slams and maybe the Davis Cup.
Yeah.
And
like me,
he was playing at a tournament which is fairly high up on the tour, but still wouldn't really attract the interest of the non-tennis fan. So sometimes they always say that publicity is
good publicity. Bad
publicity is good publicity. So
there's a bit of a harmony there when we just said that.
Yeah, exactly. So he certainly creates headlines, and people either love him or hate him, but he brings eyeballs to the tennis sport, and people start talking about him and start talking about the game as well. So
exactly. So maybe the tennis world is secretly loving this.
I think secretly the ATP, while they're probably not condoning his behaviour, but they're probably secretly liking the extra media attention on the tournament that was on at the time.
That's right.
Him playing makes more people watch tennis, I would say.
Right.
So,
well, interesting stuff. Well, let's go to another Aussie, but in a different sport, and a champion, Jason Day.
One who's shown that you can actually behave,
normal
in the sporting world and still, claim victory.
That's right. The world number 3 now is he's just captured the US PGA Championship in record-scoring fashion. So pretty much he's well done to Jason Day. Fantastic. Look, I don't follow golf that closely, to be honest, but and I appreciate how tough the sport is. I don't play it myself because I'll probably be a bit of a spastic on the golf course, to be honest. And seriously, I wouldn't be able to hit one if you said to me, here's $1 million. So I'd struggle there. But yeah, Jason Day, unbelievable.
Yeah, incredibly good year. He's finished in the top 10 in the last 3 majors. Finished 9th at the US Open, tied for 4th at the British Open, and obviously won the PGA Championship this year. He finished 3rd at the Masters in 2013. Finished 2nd at the US Open twice. So he's finished in the top 5 in pretty much every major there is. So he's very, very consistent at the biggest tournaments, and probably one of the most deserving major champion winners that golf's seen, really.
Yeah, look, it's fantastic.
Probably before this tournament, he was probably the best player in the world that hadn't won a major yet. So well deserved, and so many near misses. He was quoted as saying that if he wasn't able to get over the line this time, that might really broken him. So,
yeah, look, at the end of the day, I guess you need to get those results out. So, because that's what sport is, about winning. It's about winning.
The runner-up at the PGA, Jordan Spieth, who's had an incredibly good year. He won the first two majors of the year, won 2 in a row, so that hadn't been done for a long time, and finished, I think, 3rd or 4th at the British Open, and then outright second at this tournament. So he's won 2 majors and finished top 4 in the last 2, which is in a sport like golf, which is very, very hard to dominate. Incredibly good effort, and arguably now the world number 1 as well. So he's probably the new star in golf, and Jason Day's the good, the heartwarming story.
That's right. And poor old Tiger Woods has just gone away.
He's finished, I think. Yeah.
Finished.
Every time people try and sort of pump him up a little bit, and maybe say that this is the chance for him to rebound, but every single time he either misses the tap or performs very, very, underwhelming. I think he's outside the top 200.
Women, what they do today.
Well, I mean, it's sometimes you could say that, but at the same time, after his scandal, actually went back to world number 1. So, yes, he had a hiatus after his scandal, but
a few injuries.
But when he came back from the scandal, he was able to, he didn't win a major after the scandal, but he got back to world number 1 and was winning tournaments. So I think the injuries have probably been the reason that he's fallen away so quickly. And
yeah. Nah, look,
it's very, very uncompetitive now.
What do? You look, Tiger, but Jason Day onwards and upwards, and it's fantastic. Great player, and
it's probably one of the most loved sportsmen in Australia at the moment. So,
yes, more than Kyrgios, that's for sure.
Yes, I think he's got a few more fans. He certainly doesn't put anyone off. So
no, yeah, that's right. It's sledging in golf, but look, we've got a lot of AFL to go through, so we're going to go to our break probably earlier than expected because it's action-packed in the AFL world. There's announcements left, right, and centre, so we're going to bring you the results, obviously, first from the weekend, and then we're going to go into everything else. It's going to be a bit crazy, so enjoy the break. We'll be back soon.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it. It takes guts to walk away. Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it. It takes guts to walk away.
And welcome back after that quick break. And now let's go into the AFL, Henry, because we're both the Crows men. But I'll go through the results and then we'll just take it from there. So over the weekend, Sydney defeated Collingwood 87-76. The Crows smashed Essendon 171-59. North Melbourne defeated St Kilda 120-83. Port defeated GWS 111-90. Hawthorn defeated Geelong 121-85. Brisbane smashed Carlton 131-67. Richmond smashed Gold Coast 138-55. Bulldogs smashed Melbourne 153-55, and West Coast over Fremantle in the Derby 104-80. So Fremantle still on top, West Coast still in second spot, and our beloved Crows are in 8th spot with the rest all. It's very close there from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th, and onwards. So Henry. There are the results. What are your thoughts on, I don't know, on anything?
I think, obviously, as you're going through the results there, not many close games.
No.
Really, closest one was the 11-point victory for Sydney. The rest of them were all sort of, 40 points or plus, really. So
112 by the Crows.
112 by Adelaide, 98 by Western Bulldogs. 83 from Richmond.
Yes.
So, No, it was a fairly uncompetitive round this week, but
yes, but
yeah,
very critical.
very critical. Yes, the Crows went from being about 0.1% behind Geelong to being 10 percentage points and a game ahead of Geelong.
And Collingwood, GWS, Geelong all lost, meaning they dropped them out.
Yes, yeah. You would think that Collingwood and Port Adelaide's loss puts them completely out of contention.
Well, look, we're Crows are 10 points ahead of Collingwood.
And the Crows were in 8 spots. So really, that's probably the end of their season. GWS they're on the brink of falling out of contention.
One more loss.
They've
for
got
them.
2 fairly easy wins coming up in the last 2 rounds, provided they turn up. But
however, they
play Sydney
this weekend. So if Sydney do beat them, which I guess
Sydney would go in favourites for that, you think, despite their sort of up and down form.
Look, I would think so, and then I think they would knock them out completely because, obviously Crows are playing Brisbane at home. I mean, we'll go through let's go quickly through that and then we can discuss them more. So Hawthorn's playing Port. So obviously
Hawthorn probably win that quite comfortably.
Collingwood Richmond is a cracker of a match because let's face it, Collingwood can still beat all these teams. I think so. Collingwood.
They are good. They are good enough to cause an upset in the last few remaining games.
Well, let's face it. If Richmond lose to Collingwood, Crows will probably win against Brisbane because they're playing. Then they will jump ahead on points. Over Richmond as an example. So there's a lot of things. St Kilda's playing Geelong. Yeah, that's a critical one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, St Kilda have shown this year that they can certainly turn it on when they want to, and they haven't really been the cellar dwellers like they were last year, where they could run the wooden spoon. So very much a dangerous game for Geelong, especially at Etihad as well.
That's right. North Melbourne, Fremantle in Etihad as well. That's another cracker match.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's talking about the Crows and Geelong sort of fighting out for the last spot in the 8, but North Melbourne on 12 wins, they're probably going in as underdogs in all 3 of their remaining matches. They've got Fremantle this week at home.
Yes.
Then they've got the Western Bulldogs who are on fire at the moment.
Well, yeah, they're still.
And they also play Richmond in the final game. So you think the Richmond game is 50-50s, but arguably they'd go in as underdogs against Freo and the Dogs.
You think so? Still, I think Fremantle.
North Melbourne need one more win probably to secure a spot, but
But is Fremantle going to rest players because they're clearly on top by a game and a half? So are they going to rest against North Melbourne?
Well, at least Fremantle have the luxury of resting players and not really costing themselves much of a spot in the on the ladder. So
it's interesting. So that could be really. We may look at it and go, well, North Melbourne may actually beat them quite easily because they're going to rest half their players.
I mean, North Melbourne this year, similar to Adelaide, have shown that when their form's on, it's reasonably impressive. But their last 5 games, North Melbourne have beaten effectively the bottom 5 sides. So despite winning 5 in a row, their form line is very hard to read. They've beaten Essendon, Brisbane, Carlton, Melbourne, and St Kilda.
Wow.
So you can hardly say that that form line is, they've done what they had to do. So if they'd lost any of those games, people would have been talking about North Melbourne struggling. So the time's come for them to finish off their run to the finals. And it's going to be a tough run home for them. And, any slip up and they could fall out of the 8 and into 9th spot. So
well, look, and let's talk about the Crows. They did what they had to do and they smashed the Bombers, which is a fantastic percentage booster, which we actually need against Geelong if we do end up on even points going into the last.
Correct.
Oh, well, no. Yeah, going into not actually, if we're going a game ahead into the last one, because we really need Geelong to lose one more game to rely on percentage in the last round.
If the Cats lose this week
or next week,
there's the possibility that Adelaide could lose 2 of the remaining 3 games and still make the finals, provided the percentage is higher.
Yeah.
Which it is quite comfortably at the moment. So,
yes.
Obviously the Crows out after the Brisbane game, they're going to be hot favourites in that. They've got West Coast and then Geelong away. So that's going to be 2 very tough games for the Crows.
Can we beat West Coast?
I think the Crows' form recently has been, obviously the Swans game was disappointing, but Showdown win was massive, and they certainly put pedal to the metal against Essendon when Essendon was struggling in that second half. Put them away comfortably. So some of the ball movement and goal kicking goalkeeping was the issue the week before, 11 goals, 22.
Far out, tell me about it.
And 7 days later, they kicked 27 goals, 9. So,
yeah, look, look, I understand Essendon are a pretty crappy team. I mean, Brisbane this week, Crows should win. I mean, look, yeah, you lose, you're out, but, I mean, you should bump Brisbane as well, hopefully.
You would, yeah. I mean, the Crows showed on the weekend that, the first sort of quarter and a half was a bit of a tight struggle.
Yeah.
But as soon as they, played with the correct intensity and were moving the ball fast and whatnot, the pressure was good as well. At the in the opening sort of quarter and a half, the Crows kicked their opening 7 goals from turnovers. So
yeah,
to show that the pressure was reasonably good. And Brisbane have been struggling all season. So the Crows step up with the correct attitude at Adelaide Oval this Saturday night. You'd think they'd get the job done.
Yeah, they should get the job done. I mean, look, they all played quite well, I guess. And I wonder if there's going to be an unchanged team as well.
Yeah, I mean, last week was an unchanged team. So
what's your call on that? I mean, they said Douglas could come back in.
Yeah, I think maybe the only change might be Douglas for McKay. McKay's been the sub 2 weeks in a row now, and I think McKay's the sort of player that's had so many chances to perform and sort of hasn't really delivered. So
I agree. But do you think, what about Lyons or Atkins or even Riley Knight? Do they get dropped because they're,
I think Atkins has been very impressive when he's since he's sort of entered the AFL fold. Personally, I would prefer that we put faith in the youngsters.
Yep.
Who deserve some opportunities to perform, and I think the Crows, very, very unlikely to win the flag this year, even if they make the finals. So I think getting the youngsters to potentially play some finals football and play in these important tight matches is going to be good for their confidence and their growth as players in the future. If we play players like David McKay over those guys, I think it doesn't really grow our list doesn't push us closer to a premiership.
No, I mean
2, 3, 4 years ahead.
Look, I know Thompson is the eldest, but he's
performing.
He's performing, so you have to play your best team.
Yeah,
regardless, because at the end of the day, other clubs out there have got older.
And we've seen lately that even with a number of younger players in the Crows team, they haven't really let themselves down. So it's going to be interesting at selection, but I would say that Douglas for McKay is probably very, very, very likely to be the only change. Really, I think they've shown that they want to put their faith in winning teams as well. So
makes sense. I mean, unless you get an injury, which I know Dangerfield got maybe his calf, so I mean he'll probably play, but you don't really want to risk that either. So maybe they should rest him.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to rest their best player, albeit with the contract speculation. But I didn't see any injury from the highlights that I saw. So no, I think he was on 5AA yesterday morning, and he didn't really suggest any injury, any niggles or anything. So I think we'll be good to go.
Well, speaking of the contracts, Charlie Cameron's re-signed for another 3 years, and Big Sauce Jacobs, we've got him for another 4 until the end of 2019.
Yeah. There's a
fantastic signing.
Good signings, yes.
Re-signings, I should say.
That's it. Yeah. Danger's probably the only really big name player that hasn't extended beyond either this year or next year. So Scott Thompson hasn't re-signed yet, but I think he's more than happy to go around. I think it's more just about finding out, how the body holds up and whether the Crows actually want to continue with someone at his age. So
that's right, because at the end of the day, he's going to take away a spot from. I mean, Matt Crouch is there to replace him. Now they're playing obviously together. However, you drop Thompson, you just bring in another like a Yeoman, or you bring in a Kerridge or whoever, Mitch Grigg. So
there's plenty of options. In
Brad Crouch, obviously, Brad Crouch really is the one that would come in next year.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that it's almost Fred Crouch is going to be almost like a new.
Look,
provided his foot can recover,
and he's a year behind in developing. So I mean, yes, he'll play. Fingers crossed.
I think Thompson will get a new contract. Probably only be the one year, but obviously we're all waiting to find out what Patrick Dangerfield's going to do.
Well, that's right.
I think he suggested on 5AA that he's going to announce it at the end of the year, or make his decision at the end of the.
After
the finals, which is never really a good sign compared to previous history.
Look, I think he's going. I think you know what? We're going to get a player or a draft pick in return.
I don't think you can ever replace someone that good, but generally, if players haven't re-signed this far into the season, that normally suggest that they're out of here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right.
I think if he does stay, it's a bonus, considering most Crows fans are probably believing that he's going. So sort of keep yourself in the negative camp, because then if there's positive news, then you can be elated.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I tend to do that all the time. Trying to be realistic. No, but I think he's gone. And at the end of the day, they will just open up and Yeoman and Brad Crouch and the Greeks and all these. We can't keep all of them, but they'll just replace them. And in the day, come round one in 2016, everyone's going to be forgetting that really, and you just move on and you play the game.
Yeah, one soldier out, one soldier in. It's sort of one of the sayings that I think.
Pretty much. So, but look, it's been interesting stuff, obviously. And another look at this weekend is going to be interesting. Fingers crossed that Geelong do lose, and then we can just hopefully rely on percentage. But let's hope Crows win this week, and let's hope we win next week against West Coast, and then we'll be in for sure. So
4 straight wins in the finals and at the MCG.
That's it. Why not? So. But enough of the results. So let's go on to other pressing issues in the AFL world. James Hird is gone.
2 years after it should have happened.
Jeez, I mean, God,
I don't know
what's more. Time. Well, end of the day, they reckon he's put his resignation in about 5-6 times, and they've said no.
Yes, I think.
Do you believe that?
They spun it very, very. Whether you say they did it well or not, but it was clearly spin to say that he resigned when they decided to turf him, 3 rounds before the end of the season.
Do you think if they hadn't lost by that much, that he would still be there?
Oh, I think he would still be there if they didn't lose by 112. Yes, yeah. But it would seem inevitable that he wasn't going to continue based on their current form.
No.
And, to me, as soon as they decided to keep him on after the drug saga, it was always going to end in tears, because it would have been very hard as a player to, some of the players might have loved him, but if I was a player and I knew that my coach had put me in that sort of situation, it would be very hard to play for them and sort of get behind them, because, if he wasn't the number 1 man, he was certainly the number 2 man in that program. And
100%.
And clearly they haven't, even if he believes even if he believes he's innocent, just the black cloud that's been hanging over Essendon for, 24, 36 months.
Yeah.
With him in the helm, cameras out the front of the club. Clearly the players are
they're mentally
exhausted. So, with James Hird out of the chair, that might mean that, they can sort of start a refresh. I mean, who knows what happens, maybe early next year with the Court of Arbitration for Sport decision, but at least they can sort of move on from the Hird, Dank, Ian Robson sort of administration.
He's going to go anyway.
Paul Little is really the only player left from that.
But he's going to stay.
Or the only bigger left.
Yeah, that's right.
From that situation. So,
he's going to look. He needs to stay there, and that's so big. You need some stability. I mean, end of the day,
he's probably going to stay until the end of the year.
I think. Who really wants to coach Essendon now? Who wants to even play there?
It's certainly not the job that looks very enticing at the moment, does it?
No, he doesn't actually at all. So, and that's a bit of an issue as well, I think. So, I think they're going to struggle to keep players. And I think, who really wants to take on an Essendon player in the first place?
No, exactly.
You don't even know if you're going to
there's a
be
difference
banned.
between wanting to trade their own players, but or if a player wants to leave the club, but if there's the possibility of a 2-year ban, why would a club want to take that on? Unless
Port Adelaide had with Ryder.
I think they did at a time when they thought they were going to be innocent. Very interesting times. But yeah, if the player is an absolute gun, then maybe you can take a risk. But if there was sort of some middle of the range player who had a massive suspension hanging over their heads, then I can't imagine that clubs would be willing to take them on. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting, and obviously Essendon in the coaching merry-go-round now with the Crows and Carlton. Now Essendon. So who knows? Rumours has it that Brendan Bolton's going to be coaching Carlton.
Yes.
So and good on him. And then I guess I really don't know who's going to put up their hand for Essendon. I don't know what's going to happen with the Crows. We discussed it last week, but we'll discuss it until it happens, I guess.
I think it's with the assistant coaches and, the contenders for these positions. Obviously the news leaks out normally, a few days before the announcement ends up happening, but it's very hard to say, I want Coach X, or, I think his credentials are really good, because really have no idea how good the assistant coaches are until they become full-time coaches, and
that's right.
They because there can be recommendations and sort of you can be talked up on the media, but unless we actually see them on the job, the only people that know how the quality of the assistant coaches are the teams and the players that have played for them or under them at the time. So look, I'm pretty confident that for the Crows that Fagan and whatnot will make the correct decision. They did with Phil Walsh, and I'm sure that they'll make the correct decision this time as well. And
it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to, especially the Crows, because it's probably going to be one of the hardest jobs to take over. Albeit the Crows, playing list and the way they're playing at the moment is quite promising, but for a new coach to come in, there's going to be an expectation that they're going to continue the Phil Walsh legacy. But at the same time, you need to be your own man as well, and you need to bring your own ideas.
I think the values and the culture is going to be Phil Walsh-esque. So they're going to say, and the players have got that in their own minds, which is good because they want to do that for themselves and also remember Phil in that way and say, remember what he said. This is what it's about. Now, I think maybe whoever they speak to, if Campo stays on, or if it's Scotty Burns or Stuart Drew, I think they're going to say, this is the type of blueprint that we want to sort of continue with. I know it's going to be difficult because they're going to be their own man, but I think they need to say, they need someone tough. I think they need someone that can say, yes.
I think you're right with the values. They definitely have to, the team first and elite standards is fairly, yes, Phil Walsh talked about it a lot in the media, but I guess in essence, every coach wants, a team to be team first.
Yeah.
And to strive to have the best, skills and
but it's mental.
Structure and as possible. But the fact that Walsh reinforced it every single day, probably assisted in, making the players believe that they were,
that's 100%.
They were the players that they can be. So, but yes, it's going to be whoever the new coach will be, is going to have to juggle, a playing group that has been set to play one style and potentially having to play another style in 12 months' time. So, who knows how that goes? And again, it's going to be tricky. But I think I got faith that they're going to make the right decision.
Well, maybe Campo's the man.
It could be, yeah. And Campo will probably be the smoothest transition, but at the same time, there might be better candidates. You got to
see what happens.
You got to be ruthless sometimes.
We'll see. Maybe in another week there'll be more news. But let's go to the next one. The TV deal. Henry, am I reading this right? $2.508 billion. That's with a B, people. Billion over 6 years for the AFL.
Bit of a percentage increase, wasn't it?
Jeez, can we get a pay cut? Can we a pay rise from that or a cut from that? Gee, I mean,
Darren should have bid it for the rights.
Should have. That's right, Dazza. What are you doing, mate? Did you pull out that 2.6 billion? What do you think? I mean, that is fantastic for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, the previous deal was 1.25 over 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think they've gone up by about 70% in the TV deal. So I mean, it's going to mean more money in grassroots. The players' contracts are going to be jumped excessively. You think if the players are going to be demanding a 60% increase on what they're being paid at the moment, that can see players move from potentially earning a maximum, say, $1 million a year to potentially earning 1.6.
Yes.
So
it's crazy.
If the percentage increases are sort of matched across the board.
Yep.
And
they raised the salary cap because that's what's happening in the NBA. So new TV deals happening in the next couple of years. The cap could be like $100 million in the NBA, which is ridiculous. So AFL has to be.
I think the AFL CBA will be renegotiated at the end of next year.
Yep.
And I know we were talking about Dangerfield before, but the only thing that really gives me hope in regards to him not signing at the moment is maybe he was waiting for the TV deal to be signed so that he could see, how much extra money was being pumped into the AFL.
Back end.
And
back end contract.
I'm not sure about the legalities over contracts signed before the TV deal was done, but if you have more knowledge about how the TV deal was done and the amount of money that's going to be pumped into the AFL now, it gives you more leverage and more negotiating powers.
Yeah.
Over your contract. Instead of signing a deal worth $1 million a year, Danger could sign a deal that's worth $1.5 million.
Correct. It's all back ended.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see. That may be an impact on his decision. I've got no idea. He may have decided 4 months ago, but it's going to mean a massive increase in the player's salary, and it's also going to mean, all 18 clubs will probably survive as well.
Yeah, looking grassroots, and then there's going to be free to air. Fox Footy will still be around, and
high definition on Channel 7. Very, very exciting.
Yes,
I'm a massive high definition
supporter of
HDTV.
Yeah, so it's all going to happen there. I think Crows and Port games will be live. Continue to be live anyway.
So the change will be, at the moment, most Crows and Port games are normally delayed if they're a home game.
Correct.
So the new deal will mean that pretty much 8 of the 11 home games for Adelaide and Port Adelaide will be live on free-to-air, and 3 of them will be delayed, and all the away games are generally live as well for Adelaide and Port Adelaide on free-to-air. So more free-to-air live TV for Crows and Port matches.
Which is good. I mean, I'll go to the Crows matches anyway, so...
Yeah. And also a few more Thursday night fixtures.
I think there's 5 to 6 it's capped at.
5 to 6, yeah, per year.
Which I actually look, and that's one of them is Crows.
Yeah.
Crows I think Crows will always have a Thursday night one.
And the other interesting part of the deal was Foxtel having the rights to sell off one of their games to a free-to-air network. So I think the fact that that was ushered into the contract suggests that Foxtel will probably use that.
Without doubt.
Sell off that game. So I think most people are saying that Channel 10 will get that game.
Yes.
Which is the 3:20 p.m.
Saturday.
On the Saturday.
That's the new time slot.
Yes. So that current game is scheduled for 1:40. So that's being pushed out to 3:20.
That's all right. That's not too bad.
I assume that's in the new time slot because of the 6 o'clock news. That's my guess. Well,
they've been pushing for that Twilight Grand Final because they know that Twilight's times people watch more TV because they're more at home, but I think it's AFL Grand Final is going to stay as it is for now. But I think the AFL said, mate, if you want us to change it, you need to get put more money in it, and we will change it. So
I think the Gillon seemed to guarantee there won't be a night Grand Final.
No, I think it should. I agree, it shouldn't be either.
But he was at the press club today, and he didn't rule out a Twilight Grand Final, but based on the press conference yesterday afternoon, sounds like it'll be a normal Saturday afternoon Grand Final for many years to come.
I think that's fine.
As a footy fan, I love Grand Final day, the breakfast. If it becomes a night Grand Final, the whole day changes. The breakfast is irrelevant. Is now lunch. Yeah. It just mucks up your day really. So you might get more eyeballs on TV, but to me, the Grand Final should always be in the afternoon. And
now, Dazza, you got something to... Dazza's come out of the woodwork here, Henry.
I do. Just says breaking Port Adelaide or Port Power defender Jackson Trengove will miss the remainder of the 2015 season after having a shoulder reconstruction.
There you go.
Yes.
Breaking news here on Ozsports FM. Thanks there, Dazza. For all the Port fans out there, I know we haven't talked about Port Adelaide, but you're really insignificant this season. Considering that you're not going to make the finals.
Well, I think with the position that Port's in at the moment, they may as well. If any players have got niggling injuries at the moment,
that's it.
Put them away, get them operated on, and get them fresh for 2016.
That's right. So that's about it's massive, record-breaking, deal, $2.5 billion. Considering back in 1971, it was $200,000 from Channel 7 and 2 for replays, and now it's grown into $2.5 billion.
Bit of inflation in the TV rights there.
Yeah, the money talks and bullshit walks. So that's what happens there in sports. But a lot of AFL, crazy stuff. But I guess on a sad note as well in AFL, Brett Ratton, obviously his son, tragically taken away in a car accident. So sad news there for Brett Ratton, who's the assistant coach in Hawthorn, and he's on indefinite leave due to this another tragedy in the AFL world, which is always sad.
Pretty much the worst thing that can happen as a parent, having to bury your own son or daughter. So, but hopefully this is a lesson to any sort of teenagers, young drivers, or even older drivers as well, that being intoxicated and driving fast in poor conditions, stolen car.
I mean,
no
seatbelt
as
for
well.
him anyway.
So it's the other two in the car are very lucky to be alive, really, and you probably don't give yourself much hope if all those conditions are going on in the car at one time.
No,
so,
very, very sad. And, I mean, I mean, obviously, we still want passing. I mean, look, it's still it's just sad, another tragedy.
It's something that can be avoided in community these days. And
it can be.
Yeah.
That's right. Dazza.
Now, have we touched on Sam Jacobs re-signing?
I did. I mentioned it. You missed that. Have you been listening to us, Dazza?
I've got a lot to do behind the counter.
There was a suggestion on Sam Jacobs about the fact that we have seen recent, some re-signings lately that, while it's good news for the Crows, hopefully that's not a sign that maybe they know that, Danger's not going to be here next year, so they're going to start using some of the coin that they were offsetting for him.
Well, that's right, but they still
that's one theory that I've read.
It's a 3-year contract.
End of 2019 these days. And Charlie Cameron, I mentioned that earlier. I don't know if you're paying attention, but Charlie Cameron re-signed as well. So, but you got to understand. I mean, look, when I'm a bit over the Danger thing, and I think he's going, but they need to start working out. Okay, are we going to get a draft pick? Are we going to get a player? Who's that player?
Yeah,
because he's going to go to Geelong. So maybe they should start scouting him.
I'm sure they're already doing that at the moment. They the rules that the AFL set say that you can verbally, I guess, agree to.
Managers can talk.
Yes, managers can talk. I'm sure Danger continually says he hasn't made his mind up, but I don't believe that.
That's crap.
So,
that's crap, I think.
I'm sure that he's made a decision one way or the other, and if it's the Crows, then he's going to negotiate his contract at the end of the year, and if it's not, well, then he can't announce that he's leaving for Geelong anyway. So
that's right. So he's stuck.
That's against the rules. So
exactly right.
Sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I think they know that. That's why it's a bit bizarre when they keep pressing him. So about to, well, I guess the only way you can shut him up is by re-signing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So look, good luck to him in Geelong. Let's hope they go to the bottom of the ladder, and let's hope we get a great player. Maybe Stephen Motlop.
Yes, there was a suggestion that Motlop might be part of any sort of Dangerfield deal.
He's all right.
He's pretty good. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, because that means that Danger would stay. But the Crows lack speed, and Motlop clearly is a very fast, dangerous player in the forward line. So
and in the midfield as well, possibly. But do we need him another? He's taller than Cameron and Dexter, isn't he? He's beautiful.
Yeah, he's slightly taller. Still played that small forward role, but I mean the Crows probably the one thing that they really lack is a fast midfielder, and if Motlop could maybe become more of an outside midfielder rather than a small forward, that might be
might be useful.
A benefit for Adelaide.
Yeah, no,
so that's all hypothetical. We'll find out the months ahead. But
that's right. It's interesting stuff. Now, I mean, the AFL, look, it's something that I just touched upon the WNBA, but obviously the AFL is looking to hopefully start a women's league. Maybe the target is 2017, Henry. I mean, obviously it's great to see you in the paper that going to try and get more women in the AFL umpiring fraternity, which is good. It's always nice to look at the women, umpiring, I
think we want them to get in there based on their skill and merit.
Well, that's true, but it's always good to have something to,
No, I mean, I was interstate on the weekend, so I wasn't able to see the women's match, but from the highlights that I've seen of the first women's match earlier in the year and the standard from this match as well, the top sort of, I guess, 40 girls in the country, 40 women in the country, very, very high standard, and there was a very popular tweet on the weekend showing a picture between one of the players on the weekend from the women's game and John Butcher's kicking style.
Oh, right.
Saying that one player earns $100,000 and the other doesn't, suggesting that the woman maybe had a slightly better kicking style. Got Danger's praise on the weekend as well. Katie Brennan, I think her name was.
Interesting.
The standard of the best women in the country is very, very good. I think the AFL were always concerned about the depth. Whether there was, how many teams could.
Well, it's interesting that you say the teams. They're talking about maybe 6 or 8 teams, and maybe over a period of 7 to 10 weeks.
Yes, I think the reason the standard is so high is because of the fact that it's basically the best 40 players around the country. So, whether there can be a league that sustains sort of 8 teams or 6 teams, is I'm not sure, but clearly the standard at the top level is very, very good, and it's more than good enough to sustain, interest
They should have just, start off with, if there's 6, 7, 8 teams, and it's really whoever ends up on top wins. I wouldn't even worry about playoffs or finals. Just whoever ends up top, like the EPL.
Yeah. I mean, there was clearly maybe part of the novelty factor of it, but there was more people watching the women's game on the weekend than the Crows, the Essendon game in Melbourne. So, interest was there. And which is good signs. Again, unfortunately, sometimes money and ratings and crowds always dictate.
Well, it's a lot of money now, so the money, they can use that.
Exactly, they've got enough. They can, hopefully use that money not just for the AFL, but also grassroots women's football.
This is going to be massive for the AFL.
And will make them be seen as a more progressive league as well, I guess.
Just talking about that, we had 2 SA girls playing in that match over the weekend. They were picked up in the draft.
Excellent. Yep.
Yeah, so...
I thought you were going to say the names there for Dazzle.
I'm sorry.
How anticlimax there for the listeners. 2 girls playing? Yep, okay, and then But, look, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think, from what I can remember, I think Queensland and New South Wales, Queensland was definitely one of the states I think that has one of the more stronger sort of areas for women's football. So I think that the talk was that it would be Western Bulldogs and Melbourne, who are currently the 2 Melbourne teams that run teams, Brisbane and Gold Coast, and maybe another 2 teams after that.
Yeah. So maybe hopefully down the track SA can get involved and we can maybe get the state of origin back.
That would be good. I'm always advocate for state of origin, whether it be men or women. So we'll see, but it'd be great signs. I'm not sure how many years it'll take, but clearly the AFL are keen to run one.
Yeah.
Just depends on whether they can get the logistics underway.
But will they run a reserves team for the men? That's another question.
I think the AFL have committed fairly strongly towards the current model of having reserves teams in the state league. So I think the reserves comp would be quite expensive to run. Having to force the reserves teams and staff and whatnot to travel to in-state and whatnot. So I think having all their reserves teams play within the state and not having to fly, is probably the main reason they haven't ever reconsidered the reserves comp.
Yeah, it makes
in the future. They used to have one, but I don't think that's on the AFL's radar at the moment.
But I've seen Adelaide. Ozsports commentated for a live radio stream for the local SA Women's League game, and the quality of the 2 teams that played was amazing. It was really excellent. Really good match.
Excellent.
They definitely need more recognition.
Yes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And hopefully the AFL now with its new TV deal will splurge a bit of cash, which I think they will, across the Women's League or to start it up.
They can't say that they don't have enough money, do they? Yeah.
Well, geez, $2.5 billion is a lot of money. That's a lot of money, people.
That's just the TV revenue as well. So, so I was looking back in some AFL annual reports. So the previous deal was averaging about $250 million a year from the TV deal, but they made about $450 million in revenue. So think about the 418. I think it's about 418 per year under the current deal. Add an extra $250 million on top of it. So the AFL are going to have about $650 million a year to spend on their competition and their game. So
it's not bad.
Plenty of dough.
I wonder if Gillen's going to increase his pay after this one, But,
I'm sure he's tempted. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's up to the board. I'm sure he's going to get a bit of that bonus there. But look, that's takes us to the end of the Ozsports. Well, highlights and lowlights. I know we did this last week. Look, I'll give you some time to think, Henry, if you haven't thought about it already. But I don't know, there's a lot of highlights. I think I'm going to go with on the AFL. I think it's the Crows smashing the Bombers, 112. I don't know. That's my highlight, I guess. It's probably a bit weak, but and obviously I think the TV deal is fantastic for the sport in overall. So that's my highlight anyway.
I think I'd have to go for Jason Day. The fact that he missed out so many times this year. Finally got over the final hurdle and won quite comfortably in the end by 3 shots, and very nice. Can't say a bad word about him, and fully deserved. So good reward for him, I would say.
A low light,
and plenty of prize money in his pocket as well.
Of course. What about low light?
Probably Kyrgios. I guess. Yeah. So
I agree with you. Very, very naughty boy.
It's unfortunate for Kyrgios that there can be such a massive comparison between Jason Day this week, but yes, hopefully he can be a little bit more classy on the tennis court.
Yeah, and obviously our Diamonds World highlight, fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're World Cup winning a, so it's always great for Australia to be triumphant in sports. So, but,
Yes, we couldn't do it in the rugby, but
all the cricket, all the cricket, we couldn't do it either. So it's a bit of a nightmare there. But look, thanks again to the listeners out there. Look, spread the word of Ozsports FM. Send us feedback. It'll be fantastic to hear something come through. And hope you enjoy, obviously, our bit of a banter here with Henry and I, and obviously Dazza with special comments every now and again. Look, join us again next week. Hopefully it's maybe a different time. Could be a Monday, could be a Wednesday. We don't know.
We like to change it up every now and then.
Like to spice it up for you listeners out there. Keep you guessing. But look, thanks again, and tune in once again next week. See you later.
See you guys.